And I have a voice.
I think at this point we'd like to know, after listening to everything tonight, what do you think about our knowledge on consent?
It's been interesting hearing everybody speak today, and I like how honest the conversations have been. I like that people are able to have these conversations because we have to have these conversations. And I hear things like, oh, consent can be, you can suggest, it can be suggestive, what you're wearing, what your body language is saying. But someone said we have to be careful, and I completely agree with her, because consent the dynamics are very diverse, which is something I've learned sitting here. Because it's easy to sit back there and say consent has to be absolute and final, but the situations are always very different. And yes, there are women who want to hear, okay, excuse me, can we have sex now? And then we pass the contract to the next person and we sign, the women who want it that way. But I feel like men can be, there's a way to find out, if this person is, and the situation and scenario we've created today is there's so many scenarios. This is when, two people are already involved, or there's something unspoken there that is driving them. But there are so many other situations and scenarios where consent is very important, but we skip as well. For instance, there's been cases where, I'm from Nigeria, you already mentioned, is a tribe in Nigeria, the Northerners, and consent, first of all, child marriage is almost a thing. It's legal, yes, and consent is already assumed in that situation. And consent we're talking about is for respecting consent from a child who is about 16 years old, a girl who is about 16, sometimes 14 years old. Consent in that situation, even if you're married to her, child marriage shouldn't even be a thing in the first place. But you can't say, oh, because there's already they're partners or they're married, and then automatically consent is a thing here. No, I hear what everybody has said, but there are also situations where consent is also where someone is intoxicated. Maybe not completely, whether they are drunk or high or just a bit. You can't expect, or you can't, if you have sex with that person, the person can come out tomorrow and say that they didn't give their consent because they were not very aware of what was going on at the time.
Talking about how you feel doing all that to please your partner and all of that, I'm quite interested to knowing that what are some of the legal nuances when it comes to consent, because we've mentioned examples, we've had examples from Sam and some people saying that because of the way that she's dressed, for example, your partner is dressed that day, felt like she was willing to have sex. Some examples, we are naked on the bed, Zeke agreed that that is consent to having sex. What are some of the legal things that we need to understand as a lawyer to knowing that probably this might be okay here but might not cut in court?
In court, consent is absolute and final. The court deals with facts, right? But the truth is, in practice, it's different. I've heard him say, when you're naked, but in court that can't fly. That's not enough reason. That cannot be implied. Consent in court is not exactly implied. It has to be absolute and final. We have laws like the criminal code, the penal code, well, in Nigeria anyways, and consent there is full and final. But when we're now talking about practice and how it is in reality, and I'm beginning to see, coming here I thought I would say, oh, this is how it is, but I can see how the dynamics can be entirely different. And I think when a lady says no, you can tell. I know that in Africa we've been made to believe that body language can mean two things. Yeah. No. If she's saying no, I'm the kind of person that can pull out in the middle of something and say I'm not doing it again. If that's the case, no means no. You know, give her, say no first. When she has said no, pull out first and say, okay, you know, let's now start having what's going on, where is this going, can we, but first of all, at that point when she says no, stop.
All right. So with,
or he says no, sorry, stop.
yeah. So with where Chidera ended up saying that, so I'm going to Laurentia right now. What's your personal thoughts are on this? That when someone says no, and or when you say no, and you are persuaded into saying yes, so maybe you don't love me enough, like the man said on you know, or maybe something, I'm breaking up with you or something like that, and you just say yes so that you don't lose the person or you don't hurt the person. Do you think that is considered consent?
I mean, we had a lot of controversies around this topic. And for me personally, I feel that it depends on the type of persuasion. Okay. So if the guy or your partner is buying you some, cakes because you love cakes, I just want you to feel comfortable, like it's trying to soften you up. Okay. And then at the end, you feel comfortable enough to say yes, that is consent to me. But then if the person emotionally blackmails you, like you were saying, that okay, if you don't have sex with me means that you don't love me. I might say yes, but I'm not comfortable if you leave me. Okay, so I'm saying yes, but probably my bodily expression is like no. I'm saying yes so that you can just have sex with me and you feel that okay, I love you. That to me is not consent.
So what you said made me curious. So do you think this will fly that, oh, she agreed because she was blackmailed into doing that in court? Yes, do you think that that's something that would make sense to...
Proving emotional blackmail might be hard in court because the court really deals with facts. That's why till today, proving rape is one of the hardest things one of the hardest cases to prove in court because you already said yes. Now what proof, tangible proof can you bring to court that you were blackmailed, especially if you're an adult? Because at this point you're saying he said this, he said if I didn't give into this sex then I'll lose him, and you say yes because of that. I don't know how...
the difference in classes, or maybe she's poor, so he's taking advantage of her because she doesn't have money. Do you think that would pass?
Well, it depends. To be honest, it depends on the judge now and how good your lawyer is, because as much as the court deals with facts, the evidence you're able to pull, the judge is a human being. So if you have a good lawyer who can give a final statement that can speak to the heart of the court. Yes, but to be honest, it would be hard to prove.
It would be hard, even if you have text messages and emails and stuff like that, seeing there's some sort of coercion or back and forth just to get the person to speak with them.
You've seen the movie.
The Swindler. Yeah, the Swindler. Yeah.
Tinder Swindler. Yeah. And you see how he's Samuel, I think that's his name.
Yeah.
Simon, you see how he's free,
right.
Walking free.
Right.
Because as much as there's all of that, there's need for, can he hold in court? Is this substantive enough to hold, is it substantial enough, to hold in court? It's in the court of public opinion, perhaps, yes, but what happens is when you're now explaining that, oh, the dynamics were different, and then it now seems like you had a personal agenda as well, because you as a poor lady, you saw this man as your financial plan or your liberation. At that point, there's already there's an agenda behind it, a motive behind it, and it will be hard, except maybe in public opinion, yes, you can get some justice.
Okay. Through a lot of things that we are saying, is that is consent in itself gender-based, or is just the lack of the knowledge? Is the knowledge on consent gender-based, or is the lack of knowledge? What do you think? Because we heard a lot of things saying that this is how men view consent and this is how women view consent. Is it really how men, like who taught us?
I think that, first off, when you're talking about male and female, you're talking about sex. Now, gender comes in when you're talking about the what society has ascribed, yes, to your sex. And part of it would be that I don't think that it is what it is. I think we've been conditioned. There's been some conditioning here. Men are saying things like, "Oh, it's different for me. It's different for when a lady is saying." It's the conditioning. When you take away all of that at the soul and the basic of being a human being, you will see that people think the same across this whole constant thing. But because of the constructs that have been put in place, a lady said that a man's masculinity, or the test of his masculinity is based on how many women he's able to conquer. And you see that's a very toxic masculinity going on there.
I have food in the fridge. I've gone to work. I've come back home. No food in the fridge. Who took my food? My brother has taken the food. You didn't ask me. I already had some plans for this food. Yeah. Consent wasn't given. That to me is like around the social aspect of consent. And now when it comes to gender, it's usually associated with sexual acts or sexual offense. That is when we start to say that, okay, was consent given before a sexual activity? That is when gender-based violence comes in. Or that's when gender-based consent comes in. And then we start to think that, okay, why do we have different views of consent when it comes to men and women? Women are saying that, okay, sometimes we like to give bodily cues, which legally does not hold. You have to be very verbal about it. But in our society, especially a male-dominated one, a patriarchal society, women are conditioned in various ways not to say no. So when they are being asked for their consent, they usually find it very difficult to say no. What happens to that? Okay, so bodily cues to me should be considered. You are touching me, I'm like, maybe, for example, when we go, let's say in a marriage situation, our man in the video was saying that God says that, or in the Bible, the woman is supposed to submit. Let's take that moral thing out. Let's look at what the marriage counselors say. Oh, as you are married, when your husband needs it, you give it to him.
In the laptop.
And then it's in there, like you are in the marriage and then you don't feel like having sex, but because your husband is asking for it, you are lying down, okay, do it. That is not consent. But we don't get this reported daily. Because how are you going to say it? Sometimes it's like marriage is a contract. We've already entered into the marriage because we know that in marriage there's going to be sexual activity. Yeah. So going into it means that it's concrete, it's set in stone. No matter what, I'm going to have consent with my husband to have sex, even if I don't give it. And sometimes consent is presumed until withdrawal. So we actually need to break from the silence means consent. Let's say Chidera, we are going out, okay? And then I come to you, we plan that we are going out today. And then I come to Chidera, because I don't want to go, I'm like, Chidera, are we going for this meeting? And then you just show your eyes. I'm like, okay, she means you are not going. I have, to your silence, because I am thinking that I don't want to go, I've already like given my own answer. Without you saying anything, you rolling your eyes is telling me that, oh, okay. That is assumption. I have assumed your consent to what I have asked. So consent is very complex, and it has a lot of dynamism. Okay? And when I don't want to even go into the legal stuff, children right here for that. And I find some nuances in the legal framework, especially when it comes to like the bodily cues. Okay, so for example, you said that I'm not calling you out, but just to have a conversation. Actually, I know, I just saw you. And I do like our kind of conversations, we set emotions aside and have like intellectual conversations. So like for example, you said going for a date means consent. Is it consent to sex or consent to a relationship? I believe that it's consent to a relationship. In a relationship, we can define the terms of that relationship. Do you want to have sex whilst you are in a relationship or not? And then when we have defined that term, it then comes down again to do we have to always ask ourselves when we want to have sex? What are your safe words? What are your cues? We need to have that understanding before having like an autonomous answer. Okay? Maybe I'm talking too much, I'll just ask.
Yeah, we're getting it. We wait. You get your questions, but so far I'm enjoying it. Okay. All right. So, what role do you think? I think with you're mentioning certain things, some nuances, right? Okay. Okay. Great. But what role do you think trauma plays? This is to you, Laurentia, in consent. Trauma. What role do you think it plays in consent?
So, from my understanding, there are lots of definitions of consent. Okay, one says that having the freedom and capacity. And when we talk about capacity, we have the mental capacity. Someone talked about being under duress. It's, again, persuasion. If you are persuading me with wine or with drugs, around that time, I do not have the capacity because I am drunk and high. Whatever you say, I might consent to it, which will hold in court. But socially, I would do it and then at the end I would regret it. It wouldn't even hold in court. Okay. I might do that and then regret it. Okay, because I am under intoxication. I do not know what my environment is. I don't, when you even ask where did we have sex, what style did I do? I will not even know. I will not remember. Because it's true. And that is one part of it, having the capacity. And then that comes into the mental capacity. Okay, for example, you walk on the street and then we hear stories about fraud guys having sex with mad women. Do you think the mad women give consent for the men to have sex with them? Even if they do they have the capacity to agree, to consent to that? Okay, so when it comes to trauma, not having the opportunity to have a voice and for that voice to be heard actually is trauma in its own. Who am I going to talk to after you have done what you have done to me? Will I be heard as a mentally unstable person? Do I even have the capacity to think that I can go and report this situation? And that actually adds the layers of trauma. Okay, so one, a mentally unstable person, I have already explained that. Second, someone who is mentally stable but gives consent under intoxication or blackmail. We have something called anchoring, okay, or the halo effect. I don't even want to go about into that. So it's more like, okay, well, because I see to you.
Please say it again. You have something called what?
Anchoring.
Or halo effect.
Or halo effect. So the halo effect is like, I see you, you are a very nice man, so I assume that you are rich, you are a good person.
Right.
Okay, so I'm having sex with you, you are a good person, so I don't need to give you consent. Thank you. Okay, so I don't even need to give you that consent. But then at the end, someone said you'll be dating a rapist without you knowing. At the end, we have had sex, we've had fun, and then I hear you speaking about it to your friends. I'll start saying that, okay, I didn't agree for you to talk to your friends about that. But because I had already assumed you're a good person, I already assumed that you will not do that. So we need to actually have those conversations. It's hard, especially with African women. So actually, like we were saying, that we give the bodily cues. But maybe that's how today my expectation was we need to unlearn certain things. In this era, and how legalized our society has become, we need to unlearn all those bodily cues. Be bold enough to voice out your consent. And I was so happy when Richard, you put as a woman to be able to say no without feeling guilty about, because that's actually what I believe in. Say no. Also on Pewa. The way Sam says it, walk her out of the door, the way we were able to convince her into your room, walk her out, you definitely get another person. It's the same thing that will apply to you, the lady. Do not devalue yourself because you said no to a man. Just don't. Be true to who you are. If you are comfortable about it, go ahead. If not, just say no.
All right. So this goes to Chidera. I think it's the final question that we'll be taking. What do you think really is the problem when it comes to this whole misunderstanding, when it comes to consent? That sometimes men say, I don't know what I even did wrong. You know, she was dressed in this particular way. She was all over me. What did she expect? You know, there are certain situations where after this, the person says she's been raped, and like, what did I do wrong? And the stance that a lot of men, I'm not generalizing, but usually it comes from men, saying that this is how it is. So if you do this, it is consent. If you do like those structures and all of those things, why do you think there is always that clash? Why is it happening around consent? And how do you think we can move away from that just to end the whole thing?
I think it also stands from the imbalanced power dynamics between a man and a woman. So a man automatically believes that everything a woman does revolves around him. So men are quick to say, oh, and they always have an opinion, which is so funny. You make a hairstyle, they say that they like, nobody's asking you what you like. Or you do something, you wear a dress, and I know women who, the most modest women I know, they like to dress, they like racy dressing, they like to show body. And I believe that you should be able to do what you want to do. That's the whole point of, I can't tell a man what to wear. It's not in my place to do that, and I expect that he shouldn't tell me what to wear as well. And whether I wear what I like to wear, it's not consent in itself. In fact, even if I'm the flirty type, guess what? So many men are flirty like that. Even if I'm the flirty type, I have the right to be the flirty type without it being assumed to be consent. It's that imbalance that has caused this. So men believe that everything is centered around them, built around them. Anything a woman does is built around them. It's not the case. Women should be allowed to be and live and breathe. If you're not getting, and that's why I was saying that women should also, try to do better in terms of being very, like she said, very certain. At any point, if you feel like you're not, even if you're already giving consent, the court allows you to withdraw it midway.
Yeah.
You can give your consent, and along the line you're saying, I don't feel like that anymore. I think that if you're with a man who truly loves you, or well, maybe love is not the case in that situation, whatever it is, a man who is mature enough should be able to say, listen, okay, let me withdraw first, then we can have the conversation. But trying to check if maybe this, no, at that point you're putting yourself, at that point you're putting yourself in trouble, and anything can come out of it. But I think men should start to learn that, especially in this time and age, women are trying to we're preaching body, be autonomy, women are trying to be more in charge of their body. Allow them and let them do their thing. Don't make any assumptions at all. In fact, if I were a man, I will ask you, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to, I will ask you, you don't have to be all direct, oh, come and sign contract, but you can be very, you can say, can I touch you? There's a way you can key it in that it won't ruin the passion, and everybody is still in the mood. Yeah.
Okay. He keeps shaking his head. Because I think we had that conversation on the Voice platform at some point, and he was saying that if you ask for permission, you spoil the whole thing. And I was trying to give the cues that sometimes you don't even have to be that direct to saying that, oh, can we have sex, please? But you can say nice things like that, Are you ready for the D and things, Yeah.
There are ways you can go about it. It's not always like you have to be direct. You say that men are like hunters, like they go straight and stuff. You can learn ways, or someone mentioned, I think Gloria mentioned something about love languages. So you can start having your own consent languages, okay? Like what are the cues that I can give when I want to have sex with you? And what are the cues for your consent? So maybe we are all learning, so we can learn some consent languages. And one thing that I also wanted to touch on was that there is something called, when we do have like the yes meaning no, no meaning yes, I like it, I don't like it. It's something that is actually it's called token resistance, okay? So token resistance. So it's more like men really enjoy that. So they have that perception that, oh, okay, if she's saying no, she means yes, please. You need to be very, very sure if she's meaning yes. Okay, so when we're having a discussion, or maybe in the sexual act, and then she says no. Many men will assume that she's saying yes. Please, know your partner. Is that no? When she's saying, if it's a woman, when she's saying no, is she clenching her vaginal wall so that she'll push you out? That is her bodily expression to say no, and verbally saying no. So if she's saying verbally no, clenching her walls to say no, please, it's a no, not force to enter. I just hope I'm making sense.
Okay. So thank you guys so much. I think to finish or to end this, we have made a lot of emphasis on women being on the victim side of consent. There's a story on the Boys Network that was from Boys Dawood. Those who know him, he's a bodybuilder. He's also from Nigeria, and he had this experience where a friend of his walked in and came for a visit, and for some reason she expected him to have sex with her. But because of the toxic masculinity thing, you can't say no as a man, and she did not really even look out for any cues to saying that is this man prepared for it. She just assumed that a man should want it. I mean, she has a vagina, what else does he need? So that assumption sometimes puts men in that state of, if I say no, it's not going to look good on me, so probably I just have to do it. And that is not full consent, and sometimes women should be wary of that and think about that as well, that you are also on the side where you can, impose and do the wrong thing. So thank you so much for being on the seat tonight.
And I have a